Happy December 1st, everybody. Today we're talking Tom Ford versus Melania Trump and discrimination at the Olive Garden and much more on Black Hollywood Lives this week.
You are tuned in to Black Hollywood Live this week.
Raw, I'ma give it to you with no trivia. Roll like cocaine straight from Bolivia.
Hi.
Throw a dab on it.
There you go. Then you got to do it like this, Rachel.
Hey.
What? I'm making them cowards in the corpse. What a messiah. I set the microphone on fire.
Then you got the rope arms in there.
And carry like Mariah. I come from the Shaolin slump and the Allen funk. Let's come and do enough niggas, enough guns.
Hey. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Black Hollywood Lives this week. I'm your host, Derrial, Christon, and I have my Wu-Tang Clan with me today. Joining me is Courtney Stewart.
What's up, y'all?
DJ Jesse J. Rachel True.
Hi. Hello.
And our very special guest today, we have Jenn Pinto and David Bianchi from All Out Dysfunction, which is on DVD.
Check it out.
We got it right here.
Yay.
We're gonna talk about it a little bit more, but we want to, I want you to see the inside and the back and the outside. Look at that
It's
picture in the
real.
back.
It's on DVD,
It's real sexy. It's real. It's real. I got an autographed copy right there. We got a lot of fun topics today.
Mm-hmm.
We got fire. Look, Rachel's still pulling the beat.
I'm still trying to find it. I was like, there it is.
No, you found it. You found it. This is
In
your...
case we call back to it, go!
Right. Get it. Well, thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you for
and
having
selecting this song, Jenn Pinto.
Welcome. Hey,
That's the mood that we're in today. Right?
Everybody who knows me that I'm a Wu-Tang fan. So when you asked me, I had a.
I feel that. I received that.
Your
Jenn. I
accent is
received
making me homesick,
I know.
girl. Where you from?
East New York, Brooklyn.
Right? I know. I'm an East Village girl. Right.
East Coast.
That's
East
right.
Coast.
love it.
The double East Coast.
Yeah, man.
Look, you're dressed for the East Coast today.
Yo, but you know what? I dress how I feel.
True.
I feel that.
And it's been cold
A
as hell.
constant roar in my stomach.
I feel you.
It needs to come
I
out.
feel you got the lion and everything.
Yeah,
all the
I like
swag.
that. I like
Personification.
So that's the mood. That's the mood we're in today. All right, we're gonna get into these topics so we can talk about All Out Dysfunction DVD release.
Boom! All right, so I was watching The View yesterday,
You
and
were.
Tom Ford,
Yes, he
the
was.
designer, was on there, which I don't think I've ever actually watched an interview with Tom Ford before and realized how cool he is.
Yes, he's really cool.
But
Talented
so he was,
filmmaker, too.
Yeah, he's a filmmaker.
And he has that new film,
Second
Nocturnal.
feature's coming
His
out.
Yeah,
second
second
movie,
feature.
Nocturnal
Animals,
Animals.
with Jake Gyllenhaal and
Looks
Amy
really
Adams.
good.
Yeah.
But so he was on there, and the girls asked him why he would not make a dress for Melania Trump.
Right.
And he said, well, I wouldn't make it for her, and even though I'm a Democrat, I support Hillary, he said I wouldn't want to make a dress for her either. He said, I don't think it's appropriate. The woman of the house should not be wearing clothing of that grand. It's too expensive for her. She should be wearing something that's more relatable to the everyday woman.
Like Michelle Obama and the J. Crew thing.
How she was doing.
So, but then they came out to say, well, you dressed Michelle
Michelle
Obama,
Obama, yeah.
and he said, well,
to meet the Queen.
That's what he
Yes.
said. I'm from London. She was meeting the Queen. I found that moment appropriate. So, what do you guys think? Like, do you take that? I mean, here you are living in the grandest house of the United States. I mean, is it really?
Well, I mean, the White House is a downgrade for the Trump family.
I mean,
Yeah, actually, yeah, you're right.
He's got, I mean, that's kind of humble start.
Yeah.
it's like a motel. It's like people have
Right.
slept here before.
I mean, Melania doesn't want to stay there.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I personally don't agree. I mean, clearly the Trump administration has completely reshaped the rules.
Yeah.
They come
Yeah.
for money. They stand for money. They want money on every piece of what they are,
Mm-hmm.
and that's sort of like their brand. Now, I like the fact that Tom Ford doesn't want to buy into that,
Yeah.
and I do agree that there is a certain idea that you should be more relatable to the community, which
Sure.
is what Michelle
Yeah.
Obama did really, really well.
Yeah.
So I agree with Tom Ford. I think that he's making a cool stance for his own brand, and he's entitled to that.
Yeah, because he was saying that on average his clothes are like $3,500
Yeah.
per item.
Yeah.
But
Wait for you to be relatable, Tom.
right, exactly. I don't know if I completely agree with that. I mean, okay. There's two parts to it. I agree in the sense of sure, you want to have someone who you look at, First Lady, the President, and you can relate to them. But on the flip side, look at the days of John F. Kennedy and Jackie
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Onassis.
Jackie
Jackie
O-
Onassis
Yeah.
didn't wear everyday
She was
women
wearing
clothing.
Cassini, yeah. But
so-
she sort of
and-
introduced that idea of this like super high-end couture, like as
Yeah.
the White House or First Lady, whatever. And so, I mean, it was a new concept at that point.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, I kind of look at it as like that. You used to look at the president and the first lady as someone who maybe you aspired to be, or that you looked up to. And I feel like sometimes with the way you present yourself is also a part of that. So your clothing.
Because I mean, J. Crew, it's a little more relatable, but it ain't relatable to me.
Not listen. not
I don't
listen.
think
J. Crew went up prices.
Yeah.
You know.
Me personally, I'm not looking at somebody by what they're wearing. I'm sorry, that does not impress me
Yeah.
or do
Yeah.
anything for me at all.
That's because you're a New Yorker, and the rest of the country is a little different.
They need to catch
You know
up.
what I mean?
Like I don't like. I'm not gonna like admire you more or less because of you have fancy clothes or you don't. Like I don't even care about that. I'm not worried about what you're wearing. I'm worried about what you're thinking, what you're doing.
Yep.
I'm thinking nothing for
You
the
know?
record right now.
Like that's what my focus is, and I just think that in general, like everybody's so focused on so many of the materialistic and superficial things that they're lost in what is happening in this world because they're focused on that.
Yeah.
I agree
And I
completely
think that's actually
with
what he was
you.
getting at. I think that's what he was getting
Yeah.
at, even though, I mean, it was
Yeah.
like sort of a short comment, like, and part of it, he also mentioned that she's not really his brand. So
Yeah,
I think that's,
exactly.
Right.
I think
deeper
that's,
than
I think that's what he
deeper
was.
than
Yeah, I
that.
think it was
And he
deeper
turned her
than
down
Yeah.
years ago.
Years
Right.
ago
Yeah.
or
So it wasn't just
something.
a
It wasn't
contemporary
just
thing.
about the
Yeah.
So, but
So
I do
maybe-
think he was also speaking to the environment that we're living in economically right now and all of that. Like maybe it isn't the best thing that you're rocking Tom Ford because we really got some people that need some shit right now, and you don't need a $5,000 dress or whatever it is. So I don't know.
That's true.
I
Right.
find more controversy like with what his opinion of her as a person actually is. Like,
I would
why'd you
love
turn her down 3 years ago? Like, was it her jawline?
She has new
Does she walk a
photos.
certain kind of way?
Right.
I would love to know. Love to know.
All right, so in another set of news, Evan, I'm going to start it off with the story. So the other day I got a phone call from a friend, and she was like, Jesse, I'm so sorry. And I was like, oh, why? What's wrong? She said, I heard about the new letter that they added to the LGBT. And I was like, what? Q? And she was like, Q? No, what's that? I never heard of that. She said, no, P. And I was like, P? I was like, oh, I mean, I guess I'm like, what is P? She said pedophile. I said, girl, they are not going to attach pedophile to LGBTQ. Like, it was just so crazy. So I said, where did you get this information from? So she sends me this link. So then it gets into...
Is it from Facebook?
Well,
Don't get your news from Facebook, people.
But hold on, go on.
So there's a little bit of a pull from what this story is saying, but the point of all this is that it's 2016. As we go into 2017, it's very important to make sure that your kids, and more so not the kids, more so older adults, because like I have to be checking my mama sometimes, like, Mom, that's not a real news story. It's not a real news source. To be media savvy here, to make sure you guys are checking your sources, where you guys are getting certain information from. Like it says, statistics show that about 700 billion kids are influenced by advertisements online. There's so many times there are stories online that it's so easy to click, and it goes viral, and everyone thinks it's a real story, and then you look at it, and it's things like The Onion or different blog sites or people who just want clickbait.
Yeah.
So really making sure that you are updating your kids and making sure that they know what they are clicking, who made this, who is the target audience, who paid for this ad, who gets paid if you click on it, who might benefit or be harmed by this message, what is left out of this message that might be important, and is this credible? You guys can check out projectlooksharp.com, and they give you some other ways to check out, like checking the URL. There's different ways to make sure it says like HTTPS is a locked site, you know, and just making sure
the
that.
S is for security?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who knew?
But see, little things like
know
that,
that,
and it's
actually.
like, you know what I mean? For years, I didn't know that for years until like last year I came across that. And different .coms, understanding what each one of those means and what it can take you to. .ue will take you to a virus. You know what I mean? Like there's different things that you just got to be.
So that's why
on
that
point.
happened. No, just
When also I want to throw in, I got a really realistic looking email from Apple this week. It looked like it was from Apple saying somebody had used my account, and I clicked on the link actually like an idiot, and it took me to a page where it was like, input your password, and so I knew right away not to. But then I looked at where it came from, and it was Apple, but then if you look in the parentheses of the address, it was some kind of effed up
Yep.
thing.
Yeah.
So it was obviously fake. So watch out, because I'm fairly computer savvy, and I still clicked on it.
Well, you know what else you have to watch out for is, so I was on my Apple Mac and it had a virus on it. So it gives you a number to call. So you call the number and it looked legitimate, like you said. It looked straight up like from the Apple store. Like, I was freaking out. I called this number and I should have known that it was something off because it was, first of all, it took them a second to kind of, it was like they were listening to me before I said anything, you know, and then it was a person of a foreign person on the other line, and then he started asking me very personal questions like social security numbers and nothing about the actual Apple computer, and I was like, I just hung up on him. And what's crazy is they get your number because he kept calling me back.
Yeah.
What?
I just kept sending him a voicemail, but he literally kept calling me back.
Yeah, and I
For like a good 2 weeks.
I like to pick up where you left off. And I actually got that too. The malware thing is a big deal. I mean, that's a lot of Big Brother stuff. But the thing is that right now our youth is getting so much news from social media, specifically where Twitter is faster than CNN, it's faster than ABC.com, it's faster than traditional news outlets, and our youth are not looking at traditional news outlets. Dan Rathers don't really exist anymore. And so on top of that, there's such a super saturation of the hot topic breaking news stories that are covered by all the news outlets, MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, and so on and so forth. They're covering the one story so much that unfortunately there is almost a content fatigue which induces a boredom. Right? And initially when places like The Onion first came out, they were mockumentary places, and they made it very clear that they were mockumentary. But now it's like the cloak is deeper than the dagger. So it's to the point now where we are getting lost in what is real and what is not, and what is minutia and what isn't. And I do believe that there is probably a certain amount of percentile of fake news that did indeed sway the election.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Whether the powers that be want to admit it or not, it's a fact.
I also see why the youth turned away from the news networks. If you look at CNN, and like I'm liberal, but you look at CNN and it's so far to the left that they're just as ridiculous as Fox is to the right. So I kind of wish like Noam Chomsky had a channel. You know what I mean? Like people like that who have been doing critical news for years and years and years.
Well, who would have thought, like after all these years of hardcore news, that TMZ would be most people's news source now? I mean, I hate to say it, but like if it's not on TMZ, a lot of times when I see something, it's not official.
I'm like, oh, they didn't die yet.
I'm like,
They didn't report it.
all these death hosts.
Really?
I'm like,
That's
if it's not on TMZ, I'm literally going to TMZ to see if it's not at the top. If it's not there, I'm like, oh, it's not true. Harvey didn't report on it.
We've
It's not
become
true.
this society that wants a live camera and just seeing it as it happens. But the problem with that is, like we said with the Facebook videos, okay, you see a portion of it, and then it becomes all these assumptions, and then you see one person repost it with an assumption. Now that becomes, well, no, he did shoot her for this reason, and it gets dragged like that. And that's why it's really important, to do your research and to check the story. Whatever the story is, put it in Google again, and then start paying attention to the sites, and you'll see a real news story will have hundreds and hundreds of different sites picking it up. Something that's kind of scamish, it'll be like the top 3, and you'll see the exact same headline repeated over and over again. Also, typing in companies and with the word scam also comes up because there are websites that actually help you determine what is real and what is not. So.
If it's on Black Hollywood Live, it's official. Holla. No plug there.
It's a real news story.
That's all I got for y'all.
All right. That's actually a great story, though, straight up, because it's making me think about a lot of
Wait,
stuff.
but what were you going to say about the LGBTQ?
Well, no, I mean, not that they're adding. I did see that, but the reason I was like, ooh, and because it's part of the research of like figuring out where things have come from and like what does that mean, and it's because there's actually some research and articles going around right now about what pedophiles actually are and why they should be actually classified as a sexual orientation.
Keep effing that chicken.
By putting that with gay people, you are setting everything down.
It's insanely insulting to gay people to put that in there, and it's also the beginning of like the conservative clampdown. Because as Trump said, I'm not going to mess with gay rights, but everyone he's picked for his cabinet post is very anti-LGBT.
We're going to
whatever
chat
the
about
rest
that
of
and
the
all
things
of that.
are. Yeah.
And I mean, like that made me feel very like growing up. Obviously, I grew up in a different age, but working at like the Boys and Girls Club and things like that. Like I felt uncomfortable, and I knew I'd had no reason to feel uncomfortable, but it was more society that made me feel uncomfortable because their vision of, oh, well, you're gay, you can't be around kids. What?
And if you don't think this is a big deal, if you're not like, I'm not part of the LGBT community, but this is about civil liberties and civil rights, and this is super important for all of us, because I feel like I was talking to someone who's gay, and they were like, well, I'm just concerned about the gay rights. Oh, he's fine on that, he's fine. You're forgetting about everyone else in the pile. Just like I feel like black people should also be aware, which hopefully we are, of different communities and what's going on with them. It's not just about our one little insular group.
I just think it's like when you say the term civil rights, it's just like, that's actually ridiculous that we even fighting for that.
Wait, did you see the Michael Shea Black?
Like,
Right?
That's why I cried today.
On Netflix?
This is like human. You're supposed to just know how to be civil.
I
Come
agree.
on, that's human nature, and the fact that we have to
Have this conversation.
teach people
just,
like and fight for it.
I'm
That's
with you.
just
Civil
like
and
absurd.
rights are still two different words, and we're still determining what is actually a right versus what is just sort of
And what is actually civil? What was civil 50 years ago?
That's
Still
so
civil
crazy.
today.
And equal, too.
There was a really good article on the term politically correct, because that was like conservatives were like, we're so white people, we're so tired of being politically correct. But let's face it, politically correct is actually just treating people the way you should have been treating them all along. I'm sorry that some people are super upset that other people have equal rights, but we have to start stripping away these terms. Politically incorrect makes it seem like, oh, whatever. No, we're actually talking about racism, and we're gonna keep talking about it.
But there's so many terms also when you go back, like I know I've been studying with the Black's Law Dictionary, and a lot of the meanings are way different than what we think they are, what we were taught they are.
Like what?
A lot, even the word black.
Really?
Yeah. Like there's so many things, like just in small little things that I've researched, even, it goes so much in depth about it being more of a status, this thing like trying to say we're not colors, you know what I mean? There's white, there's black. Like, no, we're not colors. We're humans. Yeah. Okay. It's one race. It's a human race. You know what I mean? So the term white and black, from what I've studied so far, is that it was a status.
Yeah, it was a social construct.
That's what it was.
The term, I personally have never loved that we say we're different races.
Yeah, I can't stand that.
I understand other people are very attached to that, and that's fair enough.
Ethnicity.
Right, we have all different cultures, things we practice,
and ethnic groups within that.
Right,
we are one race.
We are the same people. Like that was all part of. I'm sorry, that was all part of divide and conquer, and it was a chess game played on us that was incredible, because that's how they got us.
Have you gotten flack for because I have. Like, people have said, oh, Rachel, you're just,
Oh, yeah, of course. No, I'm the crazy one. And I'm fine with that. I enjoy being crazy, because the rest of the world, for some reason, now what's normal is abnormal in this world.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You get what I'm saying? So it's like it's like, no, this is just kind of like normal. It's now it's uncommon sense. It's not common sense anymore. It's uncommon sense.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. So that's all. Sorry, I can go on.
No,
that's
what we be doing here.
That's what we do. Yeah.
You came to the right
You're
show.
in the right home. You're in the right home.
That's where we are.
All right, Corey, go ahead and get your topics on.
Well, I feel like we need to switch it around because you brought up Trump. So we'll just start with the Trump appointments and a Trump update real quick. So as Rachel so kindly mentioned to you guys, Trump is making some interesting appointments. Most of them are old white men. Surprise there. One of the big appointments that came out. Okay, so just so y'all know, he has to make for some 4,000 job appointments for a variety of positions. Just so you have that number in your mind and are aware, because some people don't really know the depths of which the federal government's run. Because you're like, oh, the cabinet. Like we learned in high school, there's like 12 cabinet members. And no, there's 4,000 jobs that he is making appointments for, some of which have to be approved by the Senate, some of them do not. He made his appointment for Treasury Secretary this week, which was sort of one of the biggest news stories of the week, and it was Steve Mnuchin, I believe is how you pronounce the last name. I keep saying it wrong. He was Wall Street banker for 17 years. He worked at Goldman Sachs.
Goldman Sachs, by the way. Goldman Sachs.
And for those of you guys that
Are you guys surprised by that?
I mean, well, it's not about surprise. It's sort of about this idea that, it's really funny because he was, I don't want to say it was Van Jones. It was somebody like Van Jones. But they were talking about how the wool was really pulled over people's eyes, and it's really sad that you're seeing even though he technically was saying oh, I'm going to clean the swamp, but at the same time he was also saying I'm going to use these guys who can make better deals. The guys that he thinks can make better deals are the same guys that have been making deals all along the way, which is why we're in the position we're in. But people don't think through that shit, and that's why these people are in
What about the crazy black guy sheriff? that he's put up for a position. I should have pulled up his name, but he's got a really weird, it's a black law officer who is weird and conservative and crazy and wants to lock a lot of people up. And you haven't seen this? He wears the cowboy hat.
I have not seen that.
It was the cowboy.
That sounds like a bad cop show description.
Or Sarah Palin for veterans. It's killing me.
Those aren't like nothing. Those are not confirmed. They're floating around. Just like the Mitt Romney thing for Secretary of State is still not confirmed or whatever.
Anti-Black Lives Matter movement, David Clark.
Yeah, this is the African American man I'm talking
Department
about.
of Homeland Security.
Yeah, I mean,
was that confirmed today?
No,
it's not confirmed. He's one of his big picks. So we'll keep it to people he's actually picked. Sorry,
he's on a list.
Because there's like a list of all kinds of crazy potentials that are out there, which is very. I mean, he might shoot. He was going to hire what's his name, the doctor that ran. So he's going to be in there too. Yeah. But anyway, for Home Dude, that is now our Treasury Secretary, was also basically responsible for a huge amount of foreclosures and whatnot that happened in 2009 because he took over IndyMac and ran that bank, which was failing, and turned it into One West Bank, which is California, guys. So he was actually protested against many times for how many homes he took over from that bank because they were known as the fastest bank to like go down on the foreclosure. So he wasn't giving nobody a chance to keep their house, and so he profited a lot off of the horrific crisis of 2008. So he's the person that is now the Secretary of Treasury, or he's up for,
This is also hard to take. Like I was telling these guys earlier, I was talking to a neighbor about the elections, and I started crying today because I'm still I can't.
Well, here, this
give me some hope, girl.
Okay,
give me some hope.
Out of 4,000 positions, I got hope. No, we ain't done yet. He got some nominations in, y'all. He got 3 women of color out of 4,000 positions.
Okay.
Splash.
Bam!
Right.
Little sprinkle.
Is one of them the blind black white supremacist?
That's what I'm saying. The color doesn't matter right now because Omarosa also works for him. So we cannot just
not
say.
Officially appointed to any position yet. But Governor Nikki Haley, who is the South Carolina governor, has been appointed as the U.S. ambassador to the UN. They said she ain't really, got no history, like no international relations, like education, but she might do a great job because she is the child of Sikh immigrants.
All right.
She's invited.
That's a plus.
And then we got Miss Elaine Chao, who is from Taiwan originally, and she is the transportation secretary, and she had served under Bush. And so, therefore, she will be great again, perhaps. And she is, from Taiwan, so that makes her amazing. And then the last one, Seema Verna is also of Indian descent, and she is going to be the administrator for the Center of Medicare and Medicaid Services. So he has appointed 3 women so far, and 3 women of color, and we should, because he also appointed the Department of Education lady.
Department of Education.
That was last week, though.
Betsy DeVos?
Yes, she really believes in charter schools, so y'all.
The Amway lady.
Yes, the Amway lady.
No, go Google her and her history and her take on education, and then figure out what to do with your children.
If you guys know what public schools are supposed to be in this country, you might be a little bit concerned that this ain't gonna help at all.
And Mnuchin is, let's not forget, right? Wolves are pack animals.
Yes.
So we should not be surprised that Donald Trump is surrounding himself with different
wolves
that are carnivorous people in their own industry that are beyond the adjective shrewd.
Yes.
They are heartless to a certain degree. Stephen Mnuchin, there is a report that he foreclosed a 90-year-old woman because she was almost, I think it was 27 cents default on her payment, foreclosed her.
He's straight numbers.
So at the end of the day, it's like there is no wiggle room. He's a black, white, and no soul. However, let's not also get it twisted because we are also part of that artery at the bottom of the bloodline because Mnuchin, people don't know, was partners with Brett Ratner and Rat Pack Entertainment, funded Avatar. Magic Mike, a lot of these movies that we bought tickets for that may somehow be funneled into the electricity that's paying, we're all part of this arterial system.
We're all a part of the machine.
We shouldn't be surprise. Now, I'm also thankful that we're at a point in our society where color isn't necessarily as much as a conversation word, it's the state of mind, like you just said. Because women or of color doesn't really matter. It's all about the perspective.
That's true.
And I'm just going to assume, because I call a squirrel if it runs in a tree, that these 3 women that were appointed are going to be equally as shrewd as anybody else in this
That's
category.
what I think.
yeah.
I
You
agree.
can't be in politics and be honest and be you just can't. I'm sorry.
Maybe you can. I mean, maybe you can.
To an
I
extent.
think
At
there's-
some
No, I'm
point,
trying to
at
fess
some
up.
point, they're
in
going to stop
your
you.
local
They're
election.
going to
Yeah.
stop you.
Right, local.
In your
even
school,
then.
your local PTA.
I guess I just
Yeah, locally.
I really feel
Locally,
for
it's
parents right
different.
about now, because like, how do you talk to your kids? How do you keep their heads up? Because I know even for me, and I grew up, I'm Gen X, so grew up in a different time. When my parents moved me from New York City to upstate New York, which was all white, I had to act and behave a certain way so I didn't get shot, up there, because it was a bunch of hillbillies, and still are. So anyway, the other day I was taking a walk around the hills, and a bunch of cars came by, and it's very white up there, and I just reverted back to the stuff I was doing in high school. I kept my eyes down, didn't make eye contact. Like, it was so ingrained for me as a child to this is how what I had to do to survive. The fact that it came back with a quickness was upsetting to myself.
I think
That's
it's
part of
important.
why.
Like, my dad, I remember since I was, and I'm talking about 5 years old, my dad was so raw with me about this world we're living in, about politics, about everything. And he would always say, it's all bullshit. It's a lie. Like, they lie and lie and lie to you. You understand?
Yeah.
So you have to do your research, and it's not about going to the books that they wrote.
Right.
Okay? There's more research out there. You got to travel. You got to do these things. And now that I'm older, I realize everything's now coming back to
Full
me,
circle,
the past
yeah.
couple of years. You know what I mean? Like, everything he was saying, I totally understand now. Like, we just had a whole hour and a half conversation the other day about the whole thing with Trump and a bunch of other things. You know what I mean? So it's just, I think it's important. We have to understand. Right now, I have a 5-month-old. And
You do, girl? You do not look like you just had a baby.
breastfeeding. No, so what I've seen in just a 5-month-old is how much he pays attention to us.
Yeah.
And even when I'm speaking, it's like he understands me. I know it sounds crazy, but I'll cook and I'm telling him things, and he's so engaged in
But
what
by
I'm
the
saying.
way, what you're doing is one of the healthiest things you can do for a child, even before they can speak, is to
Yes.
speak to them.
Right, so I have a whole full-blown conversation, now we're cutting the zucchinis, we're about to make celery juice, I do all that. So my point in saying that is that from the jump, parents need to be honest. Some parents are like, when he's too young, he won't get it. No, he will get it, because I got it. When I sat there at 5 years old and my dad told me about him coming from a boat and his mom dying at 17 and him one time doing drugs and almost dying, I soaked it, and I just sat there and admired this man, because I'm like, look at who he is now and everything he went through, and he's such an incredible person. And I was 5. So from the jump, you have to be honest. Our kids need that. You got to stop sugarcoating all this fake stuff, this fake Santa. Stop. Let's be honest on what everything really is about. You can give a child the you can do that. That's fine. But there also has to be the reality part that I think a lot of parents, they kind of shy away from for a little while. And it's no, my dad told me, no, we're going to enjoy this. That's Santa. This is what it is. And it's just fun and all that. But it's not for you to be like, oh, my God, he doesn't exist.
No, listen, it's good
I
you're
was one of the
raising.
crush kids who found out that Santa wasn't alive at
Lord, my
13.
parents were like,
come on.
nothing. We bought it all.
There's a balance you
I
can
was that
have
kid you
there.
talking about crying.
I was trying to convince my mom to keep it going for my brother for 2 more years. I was like, I'm trying to keep it.
But that's a wrong example, but you get my point.
I'm
We have
glad
to be
you're raising
honest.
kids. To be honest, we need more parents who are aware. So.
And also, aside from school, I'm sorry, the school has them for 8 hours or something, you know what I mean? And I know it's really hard for parents because there's a system set up where they have a 9 to 5. By the time they get home, they are tired. These parents are tired.
Yeah.
They're cooking and doing that. What time do they have with their children to actually be, you know what I mean? Teaching them, what is actually real and what is not of what they are learning in history and a lot of things.
You're super fortunate you had a hands-on dad and parents.
Yeah.
Most parents
kids
are
don't
very
have that.
happy
Yeah.
to let the
That's the
schools
school.
take care of it.
And
we
the
can't do
nannies.
that.
TV on at
We
night.
can't can't do that. We have to be.
What's your background?
I'm Ecuadorian and Puerto Rican.
Oh, I miss my Puerto Ricans from New York. I do. It's such a beautiful, vibrant culture in New York with Puerto Ricans.
Yes,
so.
but I just think as parents we have to be more involved, and sometimes it takes I made it a point before I had my child to have my own business. I wanted to be home with my child. Yeah. I wanted to watch all the milestones and be that first person, me and my husband, that he gets everything from. We are your source here.
You mean you didn't hand your child off to a nanny?
Yeah.
It's very non-LA of you.
I know. You're so good.
Listen, my child is a mile away. Everywhere I go, he goes.
You're so shiny and not LA. It's weird.
She is photographed. She's on Getty Images with her child on the red carpet at Dysfunction.
Right.
Right.
I hope that you keep some of that the longer you stay here, because it does get easier to sort of let.
Oh yeah, I've been here 6 years,
Yeah.
and I disconnect from that part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a reality, and your home. If your home ain't right, my husband and my family, that's number one. Everything else comes afterwards. If that's broken, what's the point of having everything else?
No, agreed. And as long as people understand, a lot of what's happening here is smoke and mirrors. I know. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors here that people believe and buy into, whether it's about the Kardashians or us sitting here. So it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. So you got to make your own.
There's something to be said about how do we talk to our youth? How do you explain to your youth? You don't want your youth to be a liar, a manipulator, a misogynist, a cheater. All these things that our commander-in-chief elect is going to be.
That's
Son,
why
don't
I'm
do
saying
that. But Dad, I want to be president. Every son wants to be president. At some point in their life, it's I'd like to be president. That evolves. But how do I tell my son to not do the things that the commander-in-chief is doing?
It's such a dangerous precedent, especially when a teenager asked, what's her name, Kelly, the blonde woman who is Trump's spokesperson. He asked her, how do you feel as a woman working for someone who was accused of sexual stuff? He shut it down. She shut it down and was basically that's disrespectful of you to even ask that question. And it's no, this is a teenager who actually wants to know how, as a woman, you could have given an answer, but instead of making him feel bad that he's asking an inappropriate question, because that made me think, we're getting to that time and age in our country where just asking the wrong thing, maybe, put you in the gulag.
Well, you could take it as, okay, yes, Trump is a hot mess with everything out there, but maybe what the balance is, because a lot of times what happens is, okay, so awful shit happened, suddenly a black man could be president. Out of all of the awful shit that was happening, suddenly a black man could be president. But whoa, that was a lot for a whole lot of people. So now it's jumping onto the other side all the way over there.
Yeah.
And before Trump came along, many people would say, myself included, I could never run for president because everything that's in my closet would come out and ruin it for anybody, because everybody had to live under this mask of perfection, even if they weren't perfection, as we saw with Bill Clinton and many.
Give us an example of what's in your closet. So
whatever.
This fabulous fall coat.
Exactly.
Just curious.
But what I'm saying is that, yes, Trump is an extreme and it's awful and it's terrible and it's horrible, and I'm always trying to find the silver lining in the conversation, but perhaps that it is the leap to that extreme because we were over here, and at some point the balance eventually comes because it has to come back at some point. No. And so that now, if he could be president, maybe I, smoked something that I wasn't supposed to and went to jail once, but I'm still an amazing person and have great ideas, and I can actually be president, which will give a different perspective than we've ever had before, because previous to this Trump situation, that person could have never risen in the ranks to ever have been considered.
Yeah, that's the only thing I took from it. That's
presidency really is.
If Donald Trump can become president,
anybody can. I say that more about Donald Trump than I would have said about Obama. Absolutely. That's a true statement.
So,
I want to throw this in really quick because I know we got to move on to other subjects, but another big person that he's appointed that's making a kind of an uproar is James Mattis. Yes. Because he is the Secretary of Defense. And now they're saying to take the job, Mattis needs Congress to actually pass the new legislation to bypass a federal law stating that defense secretaries must not have been on active duty in the past 7 years. But he actually retired in 2013. Now, what's scary about him is that he has the same kind of mindset as Trump has against foreign policies, and he's known as a really diligent military leader, but they're saying that the way that he feels about the Middle East is very similar to the way that Trump feels about foreign relations and a lot of those things. But
that's what you do. You hire who has your agenda in check, and that's what you hire. So.
I like that Petraeus is going to have to check in with his parole officer. That's the fact. That's true.
Oh, yeah, that's true, actually.
Petraeus. You poor dude. He was just trying to get it in one good time. And fucked all the way up.
And he thinks that we need to have a tougher stance in the U.S. as Trump does.
They all think we need to have a tougher stance.
Whatever
like,
that means.
Whatever. The extensive conversation that could go on forever. But we will
Right.
continue to give you weekly updates on what the hell is going on because that's what we do.
Yes.
So I'm going to end my stories on a positive story. At least I think it's a positive story. So out of all of the fuckery has come some street art. So there is a street artist in Oklahoma by the name of Tatiana. Girl, I'm going to mess your last name.
Yeah, her last name was
Fazlalizadeh.
Yeah.
I'm
It was
sorry.
serious.
I generally try to do better, but that's a whole lot of letters. So she, stop guys. She
a lot
put
of
up a really,
consonants.
it's a lot. I was like, whoa, and I can't even see for real, and I can't use my iPad right now. Okay, guys. So she has this amazing work of art that she put up in Oklahoma. Basically, she went home for the holidays, and she had been feeling like, yo, I really need to do something after this election, and this was sort of a combination of work that she had already done, and also a picture of her mother that she drew, and she posted it on the side of this building in Oklahoma City where basically Oklahoma has voted Republican since 1968.
Yeah.
So she wanted to put it in a space where those people who have always voted Republican would actually be seeing it all the time. And she said, quote, I wanted to make something in a very Republican state that was a challenge to whiteness. So I used a couple of recent drawings, one old drawing and a drawing I did the day before installing this of my mother, to put together a diverse group of people. This piece was done specifically to challenge whiteness and the accepted idea of who and what America is. And the piece has the pictures of the diverse group of people, and then there's a quote that reads, America is black, it is native, it wears a hijab, it is a Spanish-speaking tongue, it is migrant, it is a woman, it is here, has been here, and it's not going anywhere.
Nice.
So shout out to you, girlfriend, because it was beautiful. The quote, I think, is beautiful. And hey, you know, and there's been a few other like street artists doing a lot of things around the country. And
I'm going to give Oklahomians props for not putting a swastika on that yet.
We don't know.
Say that too quickly.
Yeah, it just came out. It just came out.
Yeah, she literally just put it up,
Yeah.
and she actually commented that she's very aware that it may be defaced or whatever.
Right.
So check it out.
I had
like,
my
yeah.
first racist experience in Oklahoma. It was
Wait, you're first in your life?
this was years ago, but I'm like, it was like my first time full really experiencing it, and I was just I felt
What
like I was in
happened?
a twilight zone. It was so crazy. Me and my husband and his cousin, we were in Oklahoma. We were just driving, so we were just there for a night to, you know what I mean, sleep. So we were like, well, let's go out, whatever. We're here for one night, whatever. It's boring here, you know?
You see my face when you said that as a black person? I'm like, when I'm
Yeah.
shooting a movie there, my coworkers are like, let's go out.
So
I'm like, no,
we've
thanks.
never been there. So there was nothing to do. So it was a strip club. So I'm like, screw it, let's just go to the strip club then. You know what I mean?
That's safe.
There is always a strip
I would think
club.
that's safe.
Hey, right? I'm like, let's
Everybody
go have
loves
some drinks,
stage, it's
whatever. So we go, we get on the line, and the guy's like, you need 2 IDs to get in. And we're like, oh, well, we're just here from out of town. We're just here for the night. We just, want to have some drinks and have a good time. I don't think anybody really carries around with 2 identifications, you know? And he's like, yeah, well, you need 2 IDs to get in. And we're like,
2 per person?
no, 2. I need 2.
Yeah, 2 per
two per
person.
person.
Yeah, 2 per
Two forms of
person.
ID per person.
Yeah, sorry. So then, next thing you know, it was these white kids come in, and then he lets them in with 1 ID. So my husband's like, sir, he's like, I just noticed you let them in with 1 ID. So he's like, yeah, I'm not letting your kind in.
He said that
he
straight
said
up.
Straight up. And I was like, oh, okay, it's time to go.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, my
right.
husband's like,
Wow.
all right. So I'm like, yeah, let's go because this is where we'll get chopped up and nobody will ever find us.
Yeah,
I'm
by
like,
the way,
Just leave them a
Let's
Yelp
go.
she's
review.
not wrong
letting
about
her
that.
And what are you gonna
I'm
do
not
about
even
it?
listen. I'm from the hood,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
But you gotta know when it's not your hood,
Right.
okay?
Right. You know when to exit.
No,
Exactly.
that's kind of
Like,
why
I was
my
not-
eyes went down because I know that I could disappear like that.
Yeah.
That's
so
what I mean.
we were just like, you know what?
I got you. We're cool.
Yeah, and one of the, it's curious because did you know that Connecticut has a huge KKK
Yes.
population?
Really? I was very
and the
scared
one,
there.
yeah, which Connecticut, by the way, which seems like just white people live in big houses there. No, it's a racist hotbed. And the one
Yes.
place, I had many racist experiences, but I was attacked with my co-stars in a bowling alley in Connecticut with bowling balls coming at us because I was me and a Jewish guy and a Spanish guy and an Irish girl were all together. And so
Wow.
they started flicking the Jewish guy's nose and
No.
and And then it was just like a big bowling ball fight, and all I kept thinking was continuity. Don't mess with my face. All of us, we were working on a movie, and we were like, "Don't damage our faces, racist." So it can happen anywhere, not the backwards.
No, yeah. But it was
just
just I've never been there. That was just my first time, just really in my face.
I mean, for them to blatantly
like
say it,
he
you know what I mean?
he didn't care. He was like, and then my husband said it's like that. He was like, yeah, it's like that. I was like, yeah, let's go.
They didn't let me in a bar in upstate New York with my passport, which I was like, it's a higher thing than a driver's license, you guys.
It's more official.
We don't know what it is. I'm like, I know you don't, you hillbilly.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
In second grade, my principal took my referral. I'll never forget this. Remember, like it was yesterday. He pulls a black box, a brushed black box seal with a silver latch. He pulls it out from under his desk. He opens it up. He says, "You see this here?" He takes my referral, which is a carbon pink copy. He says, "I'm gonna put this here in my nigger box, and I don't want to see you in here anymore because I don't want to keep filling up my nigger box." Wow. The reason I know this is second grade because the following year I moved to Mexico City, which was third grade. In Mexico City, I was there for 5 years. I never heard nigger, spick, wetback, mullion, eggplant. Never heard any of that. I came back when I was 16, got thrown in the public school system, and I found out what the word nigger was and what it meant. And that's when I realized, holy shit, in second grade, my principal.
Wow.
Right.
So you never told your parents when you went home? You never mentioned it?
I mentioned it to them in my late teens at some point in conversation.
No, I mean,
at that point.
I mean, like
this
during
was
that time.
early elementary school. But this is upstate Rochester, New York.
Wow.
You know what's funny? My parents hit me to what it was going to be
I was
like.
at high school, by the way.
My
in
parents,
Fairport.
when we
Fairport,
lived in
this is
upstate,
Spencerport.
they hit me to what it was like. I wanted to go to a school dance when we moved up there. My parents said, no, they'll riot and they'll string you guys up. And I thought, why'd you move us up here? But I think it's super important for, again, parents to start educating their children and that these things are important and no joke. Because there was a story this week about a girl was having a 16-year-old or 14-year-old was having a party and they were decorating cupcakes and the main birthday girl was Jewish and her friends put schwa stickers on the cupcakes because they thought it was funny. So it's super duper important for parents to talk to your any age children about what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, and also like she said, you got to know it's not a matter of cowering down. It's just you got to know when to push it and when not. Right.
And I would have went like you and left. Yeah. Well, to continue this pleasant talk of racism, I have an interesting story, and actually I'm upset because it's one of my favorite chain restaurants because I'm from Ohio, the Olive Garden, if any of you know about that out there.
That's not
You did not just say the Olive Garden is your favorite restaurant.
I love
the
Olive
best
Garden.
garlic breadsticks and salad. Don't get it twisted. I'm just
Not
saying.
as bad as Chick-fil-A now. I mean,
Chick-fil-A is a different monster. But okay, so to continue the racism talk, there is a comedian by the name of Ricky Smith. He is known for founding the Random Acts of Kindness Everywhere project. So he and 4 of his friends went to the Olive Garden on Tuesday night, thinking they were just going to have some breadsticks and some salad and a couple, chicken parms. And they're chilling in there, and they get a black waitress who comes over to them, is taking their order. There's a lot of conversation that's going back and forth, and apparently it's revealed from the black waitress that she doesn't like to serve her own kind because they don't tip.
I've heard this multiple. Actually, someone that three of us at this table know.
Yeah, but like I
mean-
tipped 30% because of this
That's
funny
exactly the
thing.
conversation. But
I was a waiter in this town for a lot of years. I'm gonna tell you straight up. My first job in LA was in City Walk at Jillian's, and I used to hate waiting
I
on
love
I used to
Jillian's.
hate waiting on Mexicans. I used to hate waiting on blacks. I used to hate waiting on minority groups because that is the sub-blue collar level financially, and the sub-blue collar level of those ethnic communities. They're ratchet. They don't behave properly, they're rude, they're demanding, they're self-entitled, and they don't tip. I'm sorry,
Not to
stereotypes
make
are
a
based on
gross
fact.
generalization.
But I'm saying, stereotypes are based on fact.
Straight up racist.
No, but the
You know that,
stereotype-
right?
That's
like
fine.
everything
I
you
give no
just said
fucks. I'm
was
telling you my
so
Passionate
racist.
about
No,
this
but-
topic.
I give no fucks.
Everything
Call
you
you
say-
out.
Massive generalization.
Yeah, but you
But
said
yeah,
all.
No.
You said all.
I said
That is my problem.
I don't like.
Right.
I didn't like waiting on it because of those things. So I'm not standing up for the girl, but I get it though.
Courtney?
I've heard, no, I genuinely have heard this.
It's like not every
But
Jew,
there's
not
still
every
two,
Jew
there's
is
still
tight,
two
but it's
sides to this story.
generalization.
Well, yeah, because now he in trouble.
Okay.
So
What's
there's
his
two
side?
sides to the story. So she says
I can
that
run for president.
so he went to the manager, and the manager said, listen, I'd like a different waitress. I'd like a white waitress. She doesn't want to serve us. Cool. We want somebody
Lord.
else. The manager told them, well,
white
if you
girls
don't
love-
want this
Because
waitress,
white girls love black guys.
well, if you don't want
I don't want her name
if you
to
don't
be
want this
Becky.
waitress, then leave the restaurant
good
because you're going to have the same waitress. So words were exchanged. The black waitress says that the Ricky and his group were rowdy and causing havoc. The police were called. Ricky refused to leave the restaurant until the police actually got there because he said, I haven't done anything. You know, he's documenting everything on Twitter, sending out different messages. He said he Ubered over there. He didn't have a ride, so they were all in the parking lot waiting for the police to get there. The police get there, and the police actually say, hey, you know, it seems to be calm here. It seems to be two different sides to the story, but Ricky Smith and his posse don't seem to be causing any havoc after they've talked to a lot of people who were sitting around them. So apparently right now the case is under investigation. This is one of the tweets that Ricky was posting while he was waiting for the police. He said, and we took an Uber out here, so we were just in the parking lot at Olive Garden, #hungry. And this is what Olive Garden executives have said about this. They said, our number one goal is to create a welcoming environment for every one of our guests each day. We take these allegations seriously, and discrimination of any sort will not be tolerated in our restaurants. Olive Garden Executive Vice President of Operations has actually reached out to Mr. Smith to personally apologize and invite him back to our restaurants to make things right.
Oh, he gonna get so
The
many
employees
free
involved have been
points.
placed on leave pending the outcome of the investigation.
So, but also she has a sexual harassment case against him now.
Against him.
I want to know
Because
what
she said
Courtney has
she's
to
upset
say.
because he's saying all this stuff off of one comment, but the real attitude came from he was making inappropriate commentary, so she started being wise back with him, and so now she's bringing these charges against him now.
Courtney.
Oh, I hope she videotaped it or something then, because it's gonna be hard
It's
to
a
prove.
mess.
It's a hot
It's gonna be a hot
mess.
mess.
See, that's why I just stay at home and pray, because y'all all fucked up. Because in the end, because it sucks. Because don't get me wrong, I'm fully aware of the freaking stereotype, which is why we just had that conversation. The three of us have been out at restaurants many a times. The service has
Straight
been
up.
absolutely awful, awful
Yeah.
to the point of not deserving any tip,
Tip. What
awful.
was-
And
Like,
still
leave
we
a
tip.
penny.
And still
We
tipping
over-tip.
20%.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, why y'all tipping at all?
Yeah.
Fuck that, I'm not tipping nothing. And I cannot bring
It's-
myself to not
yeah,
tip
same here.
because I'm fully
Same
aware
here.
that
That
people
will
are
be said.
received that
Yes.
way.
Yes.
But at the same time, I understand as a server, if you're constantly getting groups of people, but at the same time, there's groups of ratchet white people. It's just what neighborhood you in, so it
It
sucks.
is.
that
I was
you
just
have
going to say that. I'm like, they have
And
to.
allow me to say,
No,
allow me to say,
that's
I've had,
right,
listen,
dude.
I said, I've had a lot of,
Let's not yell
We're
at
not
the
yelling 'cause
podcast.
we're
People in
still
their
on
cars
a
are like,
podcast.
they're about to crash.
I'm gonna cap my statement before y'all run off with it, and just say that, and then y'all can do y'all thing. But in the end, you are still a server, so you are supposed to be there to do a job, whether you think you're gonna get a tip or
Yep.
not. That's
That's
life,
true.
and
Yeah.
it sucks.
I mean,
and you
it's
can
true.
be pissed off, and maybe you don't do your premier service that'll give you that $100 tip, but you still need to be able to bring my shit to the table. And I'm tired of not getting my shit and still tipping you because I feel bad about this bullshit. I'm done. Y'all can go.
And drop the mic.
I mean, right there.
No, I just
and
mean-
with all there's, I mean, there's every community, every ethnic group has people that are
Sure.
quote unquote ratchet, that are not considerate, that are not looking at my job or her job or their job as worth it per se, right? But again, stereotypes are based on fact. They don't come out of nowhere.
But
So
they
it
come
is a
from-
generalization
there's a
for
root
me
We
to
don't
say.
have
hold
to
on.
keep perpetuating them, though.
But there's a root to
but
it,
the
though.
people perpetuate it.
It comes.
No. Wait.
It comes from
Pause.
somewhere.
It
Go
comes.
ahead.
There's a root to it. Okay.
Yeah.
We can't sit here and say, like, for example, the hood wasn't built. That was a project. There's a reason it's called a project. We were a project. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you put, this little box you have us in that has a liquor store, a Chinese store, chicken spot,
No
whatever you call
supermarket.
it, and nothing that is healthy or the things, the food you eat affect your state of mind and your consciousness, okay?
Sure.
So
Agreed.
if you're gonna be sitting here, it's like you put animals in a jungle, they're gonna act like animals, okay? So we have to, I'm not saying to be, have pity or whatever, but we also have to understand that the psyche has been messed with, and that was a systematic
Yes.
thing placed on a
Speak
lot
it.
of people.
That's
okay?
true.
So because of that, we have to be a little bit more sensitive in how we come at our people, because the truth is, it's like a mind fuck. Psychologically, they were messed up by being in that environment. When I was in New York, I was an aggressive person. Now when I go back, I'm like, yo, what is wrong with y'all? Like, why y'all so mad? I
Right.
just said good morning. What
Right.
the fuck? dude. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, and it's. But I saw when I came out and then went back in, I was just like, what is going on here?
How you've been conditioned to
Right,
sort of
and
be
then
defensive straight
to be
off
so
the bat.
defensive, and I looked at my husband. I said, "Was that us?" He's like,
Yes.
"That was us."
Yeah.
No, me too. As a New
happens,
Yorker.
You know, so because of that, like even I get it too. Like I'm not gonna lie, I was one that would be like, I ain't tipping. I go based on service,
Yeah.
But now, I just have to we have to nurture our people a little bit more. I think we turn our backs on each other just too much. You know what I mean?
Very quickly. Yeah.
Judgmental on but they act. Yeah, I was that ratchet bitch one day too. Okay,
Yes.
and
Did
I
you-
had to clean up my act.
Did you ever ask any of the people, sorry to interrupt,
ahead.
Courtney, because I bartended years ago in New York and stereotype, da-da-da-da. I would say to people sometimes, is something wrong with the service? Because it's customary to tip 20%. And no, that didn't often get me my 20%.
You know what?
But my point
look.
was, it is customary, bitch.
I have asked that question, but that's a very combative question.
It is.
But I've also had this experience where, like, I ain't ordered no drink called Gatiti. Hey, you order something called Gatiti? I ain't ordered this shit.
Yeah, but that could be any hillbilly
I know, but
in the
what I'm
Ozarks,
saying is
too.
that, like, I think it's rooted in ignorance ultimately.
Well, thank you.
But again,
Ignorance,
but
yeah.
the ignorance, which is rooted in what you were talking about, which leads into the stereotype, which leads into the social conduct, which leads into the perpetuation.
Yeah.
But we
I'm
have
not
to
saying
do
it's
better. Like,
everybody, but yeah.
But like this, you have to I even tell my family, they live, they still, in the hood and everything, and then, they're always just like, well, it's hard to eat healthy here because we don't have the resources. Then go out and go to it, okay? Right now, I
know.
travel to go to my food shopping, okay?
Absolutely,
I travel
yeah.
like about 15 miles, because
Such a good point, because it's not, I mean, for
It's no
some people
excuse.
they don't have time, right? There is a
Right,
small
yes.
percentage who are overworked and don't
Really
have time.
want it.
But I agree, like if people will dissect the housewives
out.
like it's this, but you won't read a newspaper to educate yourself. Or in this
Yeah.
circumstance, you're right.
So you know
you're
what?
taking
It's not
time.
in your block. Then you know what?
Right.
It's on 70th Street and Broadway. Go hop in that
Go
train
hop in
real
there and
quick
do
Yeah.
it.
and
Now,
get it.
I
will
wish
say-
she was
That's important.
Secretary of State.
No, the funny thing is,
No, housing and urban development, replace Ben
Replace-
Carson.
Education.
We got the candidate
All
right
of
here.
it.
Now, I do have a friend actually, ironically, works at the Olive Garden in Burbank. Shout out to James Lawson. Thank you for that Parmesan 2 weeks ago. But he did tell me
Yes,
that
James. I was like, how do I know that name?
you, you know, but he did tell me that
Sure, yeah.
unfortunately, the people of color do not tip. He said he'll have a party of like 8, right? And they'll have a $100
Wow.
bill, and he said he'll get $3. And he's a good server.
You
know
can't
what
put
I
a
mean?
gratuity on that? No, I guess
Yeah.
not.
Well,
I was gonna say with
Oh,
age-
He said they just started.
automatic
They
gratuity.
just started. He said, but he said that not every place has to honor it.
Well, and
Wow.
can we just be like Europe and not tip? Like, can y'all just pay y'all servers and like change the
Honestly.
prices and be
Honestly.
done with the
That's a whole other different
But just
subject.
And just be done. Pay your
Yeah.
servers, up the price of the food, and if you can't afford to eat there, you won't be going there anyway.
Like, you don't
But
tip
if
at
you-
McDonald's
Because it's
drive-through
ridiculous.
like, hey, thank you so much for this.
You
Girl.
see, that's the thing. Like, and a lot of people don't know. People are like 20%. Oh, it's 20%. I thought it was 15. When did it become 20? Like, a lot of people don't.
Right.
People don't know they're supposed to tip doormen. People don't know they're supposed to tip people that bring their
Your
suitcases
mailman.
up.
You're supposed
Like,
to tell your
if you get
UPS
your
guy.
mailman?
Oh,
Hell no.
Yeah,
You get
you're-
a package,
you're
like,
supposed-
especially if it's
not
a
all the
big-
time.
Daryl's
but,
just
like,
out here giving out money.
But no, in
that-
terms of if
you're-
you look at tipping culture or whatever,
Yeah.
like there's
When
all
someone
kinds of
does a
people.
service.
And I consider myself pretty well knowledgeable.
Me
There was some
too.
stuff on there. I was like,
I was
shit,
like, me
I'm supposed
too.
to tip.
Yeah.
But and people are looking at me like, see, that black girl don't tip. But I had no idea.
I had no idea.
But people should know
I
that the
didn't know
reason we
that.
have to tip our waiters and wait servers is they make $2 an hour.
They don't make any money.
They make
See,
literally
I started tipping
$2
after
an
my
hour.
friends that are waiters. They would be like, "No, Jen," like, and then I felt bad. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." So even
You have to educate,
regardless,
and
yeah.
also like
I
tip
was
on-
ignorant.
Tip on massages, like if you can get a Thai massage, or
definitely have
an
to tip on
hour and a
massages.
half Thai massage for $30, that means you should probably be tipping 20
You tip
on
on what the
top.
price should be.
I didn't say a happy ending.
But also
On that, you ain't got to tip, honey. You
on
just take it home.
on the opposite side of that, I've had some really dope servers who, when I was, you know what I mean, younger, like they would see the group that I was with and they would kind of assume like, okay, they probably don't have a lot of money. They wanted to come out and get some drinks, and you could sense that they knew that, but they took extra good care of us. Like, and you could tell it wasn't about the tip. They knew what kind of they knew what we were capable. They saw the items we were ordering off the menu, and so I think
Three people sharing a plate.
You know what I mean? So it's like, in
different.
you know what I mean? Where they could have been upset and been like, oh, I ain't gonna get a tip, because I've had those waiters too, where they're like, oh, they ain't gonna tip me shit. So then the service starts becoming shitty, and then it's like, well, bitch, I ain't gonna come back here when I do get some coin.
Right.
So the problem goes back to education, right? We have to people have to be educated so they know what to do socially, so that we can break the programming, because the waitress is just as programmed as the guy sitting at the table.
Yeah, no, that waitress has a lot of, I mean, she's right to go, okay, I don't get as big tips from my own people, but at the same time, it's a very self-hatred-y, racist-y kind of thing to say.
Well, I mean, but I also really do wonder what the story was, because I do wonder if him and his boys made like a sly comment, and she was like, "This is why I don't like serving black people." Like, and it could have been as campy as that.
Gone both sides,
and he could have been irritated and turned it into something like, I mean, I don't know, you know what I mean? But I mean, I've heard it before, and to hear, you know what I mean?
He could have been like, "Damn, girl, you looking good," and that could have.
Set her up. Yeah, she's like, wow.
Because those eyeballs could have hurt her in a way. You never know what kind of war she's fighting.
Well, girl, you could not work at Hooters, honey.
Don't work at Hooters. All right, well, we're actually, since we're running out of time, we're going to skip the last topic. We're going to go ahead and talk about All Out Dysfunction DVD, which you guys are here to represent. So I had the pleasure of going to see the movie, and it was excellent. I was at the premiere, and after party, got my gift bag. Lots of treats in there. You know, I love a good gift bag. Excellent movie. In fact, you know, it's funny. I was going to tell you, I was looking at Rotten Tomatoes, because I go there all the time to just kind of reference things if I should go see it. 85%. Audience love it. 85%.
Congratulations.
85%.
That's huge.
You deserve 2 claps for that.
Just so y'all don't know, I mean, feeling it. He acting in it. He done.
Yeah, you tell everybody what you're doing.
You're doing everything.
Let everybody know about your characters, why they should go see it, everything.
Fast version. So All Out Dysfunction. My name's David Bianchi. I wrote it, I produced it, and I play the character, one of the leading characters, Derrial. This lovely lady sitting next to me is the gorgeous Miss Jenn Pinto, who plays Pleasure. The movie is basically it's the story of 6 dysfunctional Hollywood types that all live in a mansion, and everything that goes on goes nuts. It just goes bananas. It's a comedic look at the underbelly of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Basically,
absolutely.
In a really zany, sort of dark cult comedy kind of way. And there's a lot of racist undertones and bigot undertones. And I basically take stabs at every racial group. I take stabs at everything. It's full of hilarious one-liners. And if you're into dark cult comedy, it's definitely a movie for you. You know, 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. And now the DVD and the Blu-ray is available. Yes. You can order it on Amazon Prime to get the DVD or the Blu-ray. Also Target, Best Buy, Walmart. We just released in Ireland, the UK, and also Australia at the end of the month.
Huge,
we got UK fans.
And digital is nationwide. So Apple TV, Amazon On Demand, Google, Xbox, Dish Network, Vudu. I mean, there's nowhere where you can't find it. So All Out Dysfunction. Please support your independent filmmaker.
What's your character like, Miss Fabulous?
She's feisty.
No, you're fabulous.
So I play Pleasure. She's basically a porn star webcam girl. Yikes.
How LA?
Oh my God, were you pregnant when you were shooting it, or you shot it before?
This was way before I was pregnant.
That actually would have been hilarious.
I know.
My son cannot watch this
webcam
film. No, but it's a very, very deep character. You know what I mean? And she has so many layers to her. At first, she comes out as this really ratchet, crazy, sexual, you know what I mean, being. And then, as the movie continues and it unfolds, you kind of just see the layers coming off of her. And I won't reveal too much, but basically you start to get an understanding of why she is the way she is. I think we have a habit as people to judge people but not knowing what their past and what their agreements are. We all have agreements based on what we've been through in our lives, our relationships with people, our friendships, our parents, our schooling, environment. Every little thing molds us into what we become and the decisions we make.
Girl, you better write a book.
Instead of...
Really?
No.
I know.
So instead of doing that, I think instead of, with relationships, with friendships and anything, it's a matter of saying not be like me or why are you this way. It's I want to understand who you are and why you became how you became. Yeah. Then we receive people a little differently. We won't get as offended with things. We won't take it so personal because, well, you know what? It really has nothing to do with me. That is something about her that is a trigger that somebody hit, you know?
Right.
So I think Pleasure has a lot of triggers. you know, and at the end it just kind of all comes out and she lets the world know, like, this is why I am the way I am. And you kind of, in the beginning, you're just like, oh my God, you know what I mean? And then afterwards, you kind of, you have sympathy for her and you feel for this girl.
Yeah.
Well,
and she's a
for-
businesswoman.
Yeah, she is.
She's a
Kudos for
businesswoman.
creating a
Money.
character who just could stay on the surface, but you
Yeah.
wrote a deep character and you played
and
it.
I was gonna say, the pleasure character that I wrote is that, you know, stereotypically she's very ostentatiously black, you know, but what it is that it's a defense mechanism
Right.
that she uses to keep people at a stiff arm in the adult cinema world,
Right.
in a white Hollywood, to protect herself. And when she gets into a sexual encounter with someone that confesses that, hey, I love you, that's when everything falls down. And she decides for the first time in her life not to just be honest with herself, but let me be honest with this man for the sake of him.
Yeah.
You know, where she
Let
where
me
it
save
humanizes
views from me.
herself.
Because I'm still broken.
Right.
You know what
So
I mean?
The film's got good poetry.
Listen, if
in
you
it.
guys, people are
cool.
watching don't understand, 85% on Rotten Tomatoes is huge. You know, I
It's
started a
amazing.
movie
Thank you,
last
guys.
night with Jeff Bridges that had 13% on Rotten
Listen,
Tomatoes,
there's one
right?
that's about to come out that is a big blockbuster that got like 33%, expected 33%. So, you know,
Yeah, and I
85%
just think
is
it's a
bomb.
good movie as far as in a lot of people also in Hollywood. I think we don't see the dark side.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of shy away from it. You know, we know about it, but we don't visually see it
Or
ever.
have
You
conversation.
know? Yeah.
Why did this
Yeah.
happen?
And this shows it. Like, it's your raw nitty gritty. Like, listen, if you don't make it, you might end up like.
Yeah, like
you-
we had a full conversation when we left that movie. One of my friends who I went with, and it was like we were like, "Man, I need a drink. Like this is shit. It's real. It's raw and
Are
it's
you
real."
both based out here now?
Yeah. I've been here for
LA.
6 years.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I live and work out of Studio City, so.
Gotcha.
All right, so we got to wrap it up. But where can fans find you? Well, first, okay, so just once again, they can get it
Reiterate.
everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah,
Reiterate where they can
just
get
go
this.
anywhere online.
Everywhere.
All Out
Google it.
Can you
Dysfunction,
see it?
spelt with a K, and you'll find it. And
Yeah.
you know, support independent filmmakers.
Yes.
Thank you, Black.
And it's
Hollywood Live.
available now. Like I
It's
can get it
available
today.
now. Yeah, like
Okay.
the Blu-ray and the DVD. You can order Prime for the holidays. If you got adult people in your world, this is not for the
Yes,
children.
not for the
And I
children.
will admit that. Please do not let your children see this film. I do not want a phone call.
And then where can you personally? They can find you on email. There.
Yeah. You
Or not
at
email,
Twitter
but,
at David
Twitter,
Bianchi,
social media. Don't email them, please. Don't email
Instagram
them.
David
Email me.
Bianchi.
Wait, say that again,
Say it
because we
again.
were talking, we want to hear.
Twitter at David Bianchi, Bianchi, Instagram D Bianchi SAG, and you could just Google David Bianchi. I'm pretty easy to find.
Jenn Pinto, JENNPINTO, Pinto like the bean. I just have Instagram at Jenn Pinto and my website, JennPintoMovement.com, because I'm a movement, bro.
Yes.
Feel that.
Hey.
Courtney,
For real.
Courtney, where can they find you?
I'm everywhere at Stuart Starlet, guys.
Jesse.
Boom. Everywhere. DJ Jesse J.
At Rachel True on Twitter and at True Rachel True on Instagram.
At Derrial, Christon on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and on The Walking Dead on Sunday nights at AfterBuzz TV. And we will see you next week, December 1st. It's here. Christmas month is official.
It's
Uh-oh.
on. Like,
I'm going to my first holiday party starting Friday. So
For real?
Hey!
early. All right, everybody have a great weekend.
Bye.
From executives Keven Undergaro, Derrial, Christon, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio. Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
Hang out.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.